What's up, you guys? Today is April 23, 2024. Today I'm going to be doing the infinity lunge with a dumbbell. Let's get started. So, all right, 10-pound dumbbell. First thing I'm going to warm up with is just what I call an orbit. Orbit is a little bit different than a halo in that the weight I'm using is not going to go above my head. So it's going to orbit around my face. That's why I don't call it a halo. Halo is up here. For me, orbit, it rotates around the face. I try to keep all parts of the weight below the top of my head. If I do that the way I'd like to, I'm forced to move the weight by using my core to tilt my rib cage. And as I do that, the effect into the core is much more significant. It also demands more from, I've got pretty tight shoulders, so it demands more in shoulder mobility for me if I perform the exercise in this manner. This is a 10-pound dumbbell. Just like to start kind of light. Try to keep a slight bend in my knees as I do this. Once again, trying to use a circumductive movement, sort of like using my core like a joystick. All right? Okay. So this infinity lunge is a combination of that orbit movement and a higher speed reverse lunge. I've broken my right big toe a bunch of times, so it doesn't like to extend like this. For this exercise, in order to absorb and decelerate the in this case the dumbbell, I'm going to need to have very active extension off of my big toe. So right now all I'm doing is I'm just doing a little mobility work. I'm just kind of working, stretching it out a little bit. I'm also focusing on lengthening. So as I'm going down here, I'm lengthening the Achilles tendon of my right ankle by allowing my heel to move back behind me. All right, I'll show you on this side. So I take as wide a split stance as I can. It gives me more space to move. I try not to roll out on the smaller three toes. I'm going to stay mounted up on the big toe and the number 2 toe next to it. Square off my hip bones, chest over my hips. Before I lower my left knee down towards the floor, I'm going to lengthen my Achilles tendon, and then I can now enter into the knee, and that helps me out as well because I have a little issue on my left knee. So if I keep my Achilles tendon short and I just start lower, it goes right into my knee. But if I make space in my ankle first, then when I lower, so I create space below my knee that way, and then I can go that way, all right? So I'm going, and that's also helpful because when I'm doing the actual exercise, I'm going to need all of that dorsiflexion to push off of and get myself out of there. All right, so now I'm going to bring back my 10-pound dumbbell. I'm going to warm up. Need a little bit more warm up on the right big toe into extension. So once again, I'm not just going to lower my right knee. I'm going to lengthen out my right Achilles tendon and just add a 45-degree rotation. If this is 0 degrees from the front, I'm focused on rotating the rib cage 45 degrees, but keeping my hip bone squared forward. Stretching, trying to get that knee. Now it's feeling better, gain a little bit more space in all the joints. Let's go one more time. Cool. Stepping forward. So as I lower my left knee, first I'm going to lengthen my left Achilles tendon, trying to keep my chest stacked over my hip. Left knee is always a little bit catchy on this, so I'm going to go slow. Focusing on keeping my hip bone squared, but turning the rib cage. Ooh, the wind almost blew me off balance. All right, one more time. This rotation towards the outside of the front leg adds a little bit of a stretch, takes out the slack on, in this case, the left hip flexor. And it also prepares me for some of these types of movements that are coming. Okay. Next thing I'm going to warm up here is an alternating lunge swing, because I'm going to have to, I had to stop because my left knee just went, and that's what it does sometimes. That's why we start kind of light. And we just make sure. It's one thing to lunge slowly, but you see all the shakiness? And that's why I like this exercise, because there's a lot of issues I deal with in all parts of my body. I have tight shoulders. I have my big toe is very stiff from being busted up a whole bunch of times. So the orbit lunge it allows me to confront many different issues at the same time. I shouldn't say confront. It allows me to assess and then learn how to deal with many issues at one time in the best way possible. Okay, so on that first set of alternating lunge swings, this knee, you probably saw a lot of shakiness. And a lot of reasons why I make these videos is so when you see whatever Instagram or TikTok videos I post with me doing something, you can see the process that I go to. I'm just a normal 55-year-old guy with a lot of busted parts, and a lot of these things you see me do is more about solving a puzzle than it is about working out, okay? For me, yeah, like you'll see, let's do that again. Just gotta make sure. Okay, so between the first set of that and the second set of that, while I was talking to you, my nervous system, and yours will do the same thing, it figured out a better way of sequencing my muscles and my system so that whatever forces were landing hard on the compromised surfaces, it figured out a better way of my body distributing that force more away from those surfaces. They're still damaged, but that set was smoother than the previous one. And as I'm talking to you right now, my body is doing the same thing. It's figuring out a better way of doing what it just did. I'm going to surprise it. This is a 20-pound dumbbell, and we're going to try one set of alternating Lunge swings with 20. Okay, the arm held out in front is to help counterbalance and help counter rotate. As the bell is bringing me back here, obviously it's trying to rotate my rib cage and my core this way. So if I put some counterweight here, it actually helps prevent me from just getting pulled into the ditch. So, all right, let's go back to the 10. Oh, hello, Mr. Beetle. Let's get you out of the way. No reason why you should die for this workout. Okay, so I'm gonna rotate, drop the bell on the right side. The bell is in my right hand, left hand is wrapped over. Once again, I'm gonna try to keep all parts of the bell as low as I can or keep it under my head. So I'm using my core from here. Now I'm gonna re-grab, bring it around. As it comes over this shoulder, I'm gonna switch hands. Okay. All right, so that was 10 pounds. Going to go back to the 20 pounder. I'm going to take a few moments. Here's another way you can look at your rest intervals besides just catching your breath. This is really important. If you understand that whenever you stop whatever you are doing, besides your body replenishing substrate and ATP recycling and all that, the most important thing to me, as I'm talking to you right now, is knowing that my nervous system, without me having to really think about it, is trying to figure out a better way of doing what I just did. And then I'm gonna slap double the weight on it, and it'll now have to deal with figuring that out on the next set. So your nervous system is an amazing thing, but you do need to give it time for it to help you out this way. So don't be in too much of a rush in between sets of things. When I was younger, I just thought it was a matter of catching my breath, and I wouldn't give my body enough time, my neuromuscular system enough time to do its amazing work. 20 pounds, here we go. Right hand, left hand. From here, switching to my left hand, switching to my right hand, switching to my left hand, switching to my right, switching to my left, switching to my right. Okay. I don't count how many reps I do. That one you might have seen my knees touching the ground. I was experimenting with taking a longer step back because every now and then I like to vary the reps a little bit and see. Here's how I vary them. Either I'll take a longer step back because I have to use my muscular system a slightly different way to catch. So either that and or wider and or narrower. Each one requires a different adaptation that has to occur at whatever speed I'm moving at. And so that's what I like about this thing as well. It trains a lot. There's so many different planes of motion that have to be dealt with. There's acceleration, deceleration, and adaptation. It's a very dynamic and multifaceted movement. Okay, now I don't have, oddly enough, the most popular and most usable dumbbell weight to me is a 30-pound dumbbell. And you know, as long as I've been doing this, I don't have a 30-pound fixed dumbbell like that. Isn't that ridiculous? Anyway, so I'm going to use a kettlebell, but this is a good opportunity to show you how this infinity lunge can be used. Dumbbells, you can use kettlebells, you can even use weight plates with handles on them. So, but I don't even have a 35-pound weight plate, so let's use this kettlebell. All right, similar. Here, keeping all parts of the bell below the top of my head. Okay, and so I bailed at 3 reps because, to be honest, that felt kind of heavy and I was dragging through those reps. But I've learned not to panic when that happens. You know, I was kind of I got snagged on that, well, the last 2 reps, and it's okay. So right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm not really out of breath, but my neuromuscular system needs some time to figure out a better way of doing this. So I'm just gonna chat at you and, oh, here's something. I've taken, for the last 7 days, I have not used any of the peptides, BPC 157 or TB 500. I gave myself a week off because it's a good thing to do, but also I focused in the last week on getting more sleep and also fixing my arches and my flat-footedness. So anyway, that's enough talk. I'll go into that more later if I remember to. Let's try again. So let's see if Bill's nervous system figured out a better way of dealing with this 35-pound kettlebell. Whew. Okay. That was a little better. Still a little lumpy though. But that's okay. In general, if I do more reps on a given set, it's because I feel like I'm able to develop the skill. I don't really look at exercises as exercises, and they are, but I like to regard them as skills. And I don't work out, I practice. That shift in mentality has been very helpful to me over many years. And if I happen to get a workout in the process, then happy day. All right, let's go one more time. This is why, as the weight gets heavier, it's important that I use my core to move it, because if I just use my arms, I will not be able to catch the weight on the drop. It has to be talking too much. It needs to be connected to my core up here before it drops. If all I do is this, my core is inert, it's asleep, and then when this happens, boom, I get blasted into the abyss. So, all right. So, gonna take a little bit more time. Once again, I used to think that just waiting, see, I'm not really out of breath, but once again, there's so many elements and so many planes of movement that I have to deal with here. that it's very taxing on the nervous system, not so much on the muscular or the cardiovascular. So as I'm here chatting with you and trying to sell you on taking longer breaks, hopefully my nervous system is coming up with a better way of me doing this 35. I got a 40-pound dumbbell that I'm hoping to use, but I gotta earn that, and the way I do that is by smoothing this out a little bit more. Whew. Okay, let's go. Using my core to bring it around. That wasn't very good. Let's try again. Okay. I would say that that set was not as good as I would have liked it to have been. But once again, that's okay. That just tells me I need to take a little bit more time. So on the break here, because I'm letting my nervous system figure out a better way of doing this exercise, I'm in a partnership with Vivo barefoot shoes, and I also wear all kinds of barefoot and minimalist shoes. And what's nice about all of them is they have wide toe bases, very thin zero drop soles that tend to be very pliable. But as I'm very flat-footed. I've been flat-footed my entire life. I have no arches. And one of the reasons why I started taking the peptides is because the medial malleolus of both of my ankles has been swollen for months because my pronation has gotten worse and worse. So just wearing minimalist shoes is not going to fix that. So what I do is I combine all the good things about minimalist shoes, but I also have arch supports when I work on hard, flat surfaces, because the foot does not adapt well to hard, flat surfaces. We never evolved on this, so we shouldn't expect to adapt too well to it. So that's a little thing that I've been doing, and it's made a huge difference in my ankle and knee recovery. I tried to put that off as long as I could, because you know, I was always of the mindset that the foot should adapt as well. But once your ankle is like, I have a chronic injury. Basically, the tendons on the inner part of my ankle have been stretched so much that literally my ankles are swollen, and now my knees, it's going upstream into my knees and even to my hips. At that point, I'm injured, so I need the support of the arch inserts that are in these shoes. They still have all the functionality of the shoe, but I now allow these to heal. Once they heal, maybe I can take them out again and re-strengthen and reboot my food. Okay, this is a 40-pound dumbbell. When I go up in weight, I'm not going to really expect too big of a lunge. I just want to make sure this goes around nicely. And practice taking that step. Bring it around using the core. Okay. All that shaking, all that you see, if you ever, no matter what you're practicing, whatever skill, sport, I don't care what you call it, the more you shake, the more you fumble, the more you fuck up, the better. Okay? It's the only way your body's gonna learn. Every time each step, they're not all the same. And that's great, because that's how life treats you. You know, if you can mimic the conditions of life as closely as possible in a closed and controlled environment like this, you'll get all the benefits. Adaptation, being able to adapt, is much more important to me than looking smooth and perfect on a given whatever. Although I would like to look smooth and perfect, so let's try one more time. Okay. That was better than the first set. Okay, I'm gonna do just one more set and then I'm gonna go have dinner with the family. Question is, what's the difference between a dumbbell and a kettlebell? Pound for pound, the kettlebell is gonna hit a little bit harder on the drop because the lever, the length of the lever, if you combine your hand plus the weight, it's at a much longer lever out here. So it's gonna hit you a little harder. Same time, the hand switch from one hand to the other with your dumbbell is gonna be a little bit more challenging, just because it takes a little practice, but it's not a killer. Just be ready to bounce out of the way in case you lose hold of it. But in general, the dumbbell, if people are gonna practice this, dumbbells are better because you can start with very light dumbbells, get the technique down, and then you can start to add the weight. Kettlebells, they tend to come a little bit heavier. Even the light ones are a little bit tricky to learn with. Okay, all right, here we go. One more time. Turning with my rib cage. Bringing here, switching hands. Okay. All right. That was as smooth as I think I'm gonna get it today. So that would be it. I hope you got something out of this. I don't necessarily recommend these exercises, but you've seen me do them. I think it's important that I honestly share with you the process that I use to get to do anything you see me do. And this is kind of how it looks. This is not a demonstration. This is my workout today. So anyway, if you're still here, much love and aloha. Thank you for being here. Bye.